all of these cherry tomatoes that are growing in this bed, these all grew from last year's seeds. So I let the tomatoes fall into the ground, the ones that are kind of rotting out and stuff, and I let them just decompose right here in the bed. All these cherry tomatoes in this bed are from last year's seeds. All of these tomatoes are free. You can't beat that. After done watering the garden, get to enjoy a few snacks. A little bit of mint. Good stuff. Amazing raspberries. Ready for a little martial arts, a little workout. And that's why we got the garden, right, Aries?
Yep.
We can come out here and eat healthy and keep our bodies strong and good nutrients.
Yep.
Here, come here, bud. Try this.
Ooh.
Mmm. That's good. Pretty good blackberries, huh?
I'll try to find more.
Oh, we got a big moth. For the past few days, I've been working on getting the main pathway right here, getting that filled up with some gravel. Originally, we were going to do a bunch of pavers, like different sections of pavers and different ideas all the way down to the pergola, but that would have been just super expensive. So we're using the gravel, whatever I got left. I had a bunch of gravel that was left from another project, and we're gonna use that up to a certain point, and then we'll do some pavers over here in front of the pergola. Lately, in my martial arts practice, you know, I'm mostly known as a Kali guy, Filipino martial arts, which is really known for the weapons work, the stick fighting and the blades and all that. And I love Kali. I love the weapons. But lately in my martial arts practice, I've really been enjoying just working some of the basic kicks. The Sakaran, it's called, which is the kicks of Kali, and then also some of the old Savat techniques that I learned during my JKD days. Back when I was training Jeet Kune Do at the school that I went to, it was kind of like on your kickboxing stuff, you went one of two ways. You either went to like the Muay Thai or you went to the Savat. I liked the Savat. I trained some of the Muay Thai stuff. I like that because it's just that like hard, drive that power. But I really do like the Savat because it's a little bit more graceful, a little bit more finesse in the movements and the techniques. And that's something I've been enjoying. A little rusty on my Savat kicks, on you know, my fouettes and all that. But you know, with some practice, it'll come back. It'll clean up. I got to work more of that flexibility though, to get those kicks back with some speed. Muay Thai is like baseball bats, just hammering in. Savat is like little daggers, just bah, 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 thrusting you all over the place. So just a little bit different, but that's what I've been into lately with a lot of my own just kind of personal training.
Stop. You gotta stop. You know, it's busy.
Did you believe all that traffic?
Too much traffic.
Just got back from town. We had to run out, go grab a few things, had to grab some stuff for the greenhouse. Got to finish this bad boy up, and we had to go look for a new floor for one of the rooms. We're doing some remodeling, some renovations in the house, and we had a floor picked out, and it was gonna be like a special order or what. And the weird thing is, we went to go look to see if we can order it last night, and they said that they wouldn't deliver it either to our house or even our nearest store. We'd have to drive 100 miles one way to go get the floor. So I said, well, F that, we'll just go pick out a new floor. We did that today, and I'll be getting that installed later this week or next week or at some point. So, but at least that's done. So most people are gonna know me from my my Kali Center, which is my Filipino martial arts channel. That's kind of the martial arts that I'm known for, is Filipino martial arts. Kali, sometimes it's known as Eskrima or Arnis, but it's Filipino martial arts, and it's really known for like the stick fighting and the blades, the weapons. But what some people don't really know is the extent of my martial arts background. And I started martial arts when I was about 6 years old, and I started off in this little class at the Park District of my hometown. They originally called it Budo Aikido, and then they changed the name of it to Budo Taijutsu. You know, that was fun for a little kid. We didn't do any board breaking or, you know, any sparring. You know, it was like techniques. You know, you did your basic kicking techniques, punching techniques. We did like escapes from like choke holds and bear hugs and headlocks and some forms. You know, we did a few forms. I was like, man, I wanted to start sparring and breaking boards and competing in tournaments and stuff like that. So I eventually got into Taekwondo, and then from there, when I was around 15, was the first time I was introduced to Filipino martial arts through a friend of mine. Just kind of got hooked on it. I just loved it right away because of the weapons. When I was in Taekwondo, we did some weapons work. I was on the demonstration team. I was doing tournaments like every month. Every time there's a tournament, I was in there. And I did all three. I always competed in all three: forms, board breaking, and sparring, because I just loved it. I loved the competition. I loved just being at class. I was at class 6 days a week. We had class every day except for Sundays. And Saturdays were my favorite because I'd be there for all the classes. And even though I was a kid, I was still allowed to participate in the adult class. And a lot of times my Master Chang at the time, he'd be like, yeah, go ahead and warm them up, you know, get them stretched out and get them through the basics. I was like 10 years old teaching Taekwondo class, like the beginning, you know, getting everyone stretched out and going through the punches and all the basic kicks. And then he'd have me go around when it was time to practice on our forms. I'd go around and help everybody that was like lower belts to learn their forms and perfect their forms and stuff, because I was really, really good at it. Now, I always got first place in my forms during competitions, so I was just really, really good at it. And on Saturdays, we had our weapons training class. So we do like the nunchucks, the bow staff, some sword stuff. And then we had our demonstration team class stuff as well. And that was always a lot of fun because we always had like some crazy obstacles that we had to go through and jump over and then like break boards. And it was just crazy, crazy wild, you know. And then we had more weapons training and all that stuff. But it was the weapons that just really, really grabbed me, kind of grabbed my heart when it came to martial arts. So when I was introduced to Filipino martial arts a little bit later on, I just fell in love with it immediately because it was just, I mean, it was weapons, you know. And I was like, yeah, this makes more sense. Like, why would you start training with your empty hands, right? Like, if you wanted to be battle ready, you'd start training with the weapons, you know. And Filipino martial arts traditionally begins with the weapons, where when you train in like Taekwondo, karate, Kung Fu, you start in the empty hands and then you advance your way to the weapons. Filipino martial arts is backwards. You start with the weapons and then you advance your way to the empty hands. So I kind of like that approach, but it was just the dynamics. It was just, you know, it was a different game. It was faster. It was really, really fast. And by that time, I was looking for a little bit more of something that was real. You know, I mean, it's not that, you know, Taekwondo is not real and stuff, but I was looking for something that really was going to be able to teach me not just a different type of fighting skill, but a management of aggression, like when to use aggression, when not to use aggression, you know, how much aggression to use. Filipino martial arts was a good vehicle for that for me. Then when I was about 18 to 20, I was kind of going around seeing what I wanted to do and taking a lot of seminars and just a lot of trials and stuff. I tried like a ninjutsu school where they had us doing like forward bombing rolls and throwing shuriken, however you say it, the stars and spikes and all that. And I was like, it's cool, man, but it's just not, you know, it's not what I'm looking for. And then I found my way to Jeet Kune Do. And what I liked about Jeet Kune Do, you know, I was looking for something, again, that was able to kind of grab onto that kind of street fighting mentality, that cheating type of mentality, that had the weapons, and it gave me more exposure to other styles of fighting. And what I liked about the JKD, it was the closest thing that I was able to find at the time that kind of had the same feel of the first Eskrima that I was training, because it was backyard training and it was tough. It was brutal stuff, and I wanted to kind of have that feel. When I found Matt Numrich's Jeet Kune Do school, at the time it was called Elite Defense Systems. It was in he had two locations, one in Chicagoland and then one in Rockford, Illinois, which is a little bit more north, like an hour away from Chicago. That was really, really cool because, you know, we were training the empty hands. We did what we call 5 ranges of combat, right? This was Matt's kind of thing. And you had the long range, like the kickboxing range, punches, kicks, all that. You had the close quarters, clinch work, standing grappling, elbows, knees, headbutts. You had ground, all the ground fighting stuff, your jiu-jitsu, your sambo, your dumog, all that. And then we had weapons, you know, and most of it was like sticks, you know, impact weapons, edge weapons, and then we do like firearm, disarm stuff. And then mass attack, right? Like how to deal with multiple opponents. And what I loved about Matt's school is that, first of all, every single class started off with sparring. We started off every single class with what was called an accordion drill. I use these still today with Kali. So I actually use a lot of stuff that I learned from when I was training with Matt and teaching under Matt. We did these things called accordion drills, and this would be like the first 10-15 minutes of every single class, where basically the instructor would call out one of those 5 combat ranges, and you'd have to transition to them, right? So you'd call like knife fight, then you got to go and find a knife or grab one out of your pocket, and you got a knife fight with your partner. Then he'd be like, kickboxing, got to drop the knife and kickbox. And then you call like close quarters, and then you got to go in there and get, now you're sparring with all the clinch sparring and elbows and knees, and then you call like ground fight, and you got to, take down, hit the ground and grapple. And then you might call like mass attack on me, right, on Paul. So the whole class would be like attacking you. You got to find an equalizer, and you got to use your footwork and zone, and you got to deal with like whatever the size of the class was. Sometimes it was 8-on-1, sometimes it was 16-on-1. It got really, really crazy. But the thing I really loved about Matt's school is we would go outside and train. We'd go outside and train in the parking lot. And the parking lot that the school was in, it was not in the best condition, especially when you go behind the building. So sometimes we'd be out there, doing these accordion drills or whatever, and you'd be like, ground fight. And you see everybody like, oh no, they don't want to get down on the ground. So many people rather, pull guard and be on their back. But that's good in jiu-jitsu. But in the street, that may not be so good. You probably want to be on top and, have side control or mounts or something like that, so you can transition maybe to a weapon faster, or if he calls multiple opponents, right? Like, he just calls stuff and it just flies. So we had to be able to transition like that. I think that training brought a different type of awareness, especially like self-awareness, environmental awareness, preparation for opponents, the potential of opponents, a lot of the things that I teach today over in my Kali Center. And it just brought this like raw element to the training that I just absolutely loved. And even though, it wasn't really Kali, it was like, when you train in Jeet Kune Do, a lot of places is like Jeet Kune Do / Kali. It's not really Kali though. It's kind of more like imitation Kali. When you're really studying a true Kali system, a true art of Kali, it's very different than the Kali that is done in Jeet Kune Do. But the training with Matt's school, it definitely unleashed something in me. I thought a lot about, what did I get most out of all of that martial arts training from being a little kid all the way up to basically now, or especially the time with Matt. Because after Matt, then I dove 100% back into Filipino martial arts. When I was training with Matt, when I was training, the JKD stuff, it was great because it opened me up to a world of all these different martial arts. Even in Filipino martial arts, it opened me up to all these different styles and systems and things. And what I would do then is I would go and travel around to different seminars. And I never would have known about these if I was not there at that JKD school. At the JKD school, we also had a lot of great practitioners that had a lot of other martial arts backgrounds. So what I did is, especially when I was an assistant and I started teaching more classes, I would always want to kind of question these people and pick their brains and kind of have like mini private sessions with them after class. And I'd be training, small circle jiu-jitsu a couple nights. Or I'd be training boxing with my boxing coach for a couple nights. Or I'd be training, trying to improve my grappling, or training Savate, or training Wing Chun stuff, or, just training all this different stuff with these, with my students at the time, or Matt's students that I was teaching that had all these different backgrounds. So it gave me a lot of exposure. And then whenever I could, I'd go out to seminars of these different styles and stuff and go try them and go meet people and spar with people and train with people and learn techniques with people and all that. And then after Jeet Kune Do is when I was like, Kali is it's just my thing. I think like the most important things that people can do, number one, I got 2 important things, and I do these things every day. Number one, train in a martial art. For whatever your purpose is, whatever your reason is, whatever you want from it, spend time training in a martial art. It could be any martial art. It could be Filipino. It could be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It could be boxing. It could be Aikido. It could be Taekwondo. It could be wrestling. It could be fencing. It could be Muay Thai. It could be any martial art you want. But spend at least 3 to 5 years training in martial arts. It teaches so much to you about yourself. It's not just about fighting other people. There's 3 fights in our life. We have human versus human, which is really the rarest fight that we get into, obviously depending on your profession. But then there's human versus nature, and then there's human versus himself. And that's the big one. That's a big one. You know, how to get through your struggles, how to build your own philosophies, how to build your own virtue scale, your value scale. And I think you get a lot of that through the martial arts human to human interaction. Because the experience of this life on this world as a human is a very unique experience. And the highest form of communication, I think, for us, for humans, is through that physical type of engagement, some sort of physical engagement, right? But when you're training something that is kind of in the construct of, you know, life and death, but when you're having that type of interaction, it builds something in you. You know, that's really where I learned my virtue scale. You know, my top 3 virtues, my 6 virtues that I live by, and then how to build that value scale off of that. And I learned that through my martial arts practice. So number 1, everybody should definitely practice a martial arts for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. And then the second thing is, well, you're probably gonna guess it if you've been watching my recent videos, is garden. You know, this is the human versus nature, and this is how we can really get into touch with nature. It's one thing to go for a walk in the woods, which is great, or you go a walk along the beach, or, you know, go for your hikes. It's a whole nother thing when you're putting your hands into the soil and when you're planting, you know, whether it's from a seed or start, and then you're nurturing and caring for it until that moment with some plants of destruction, you rip it out, right? There's a connection there with martial arts. Martial arts, right? Yes, we're training to protect our loved ones, and it's all for the love, right? But it is to injure life and other things. There is an imbalance with martial arts in my thought. There's an imbalance training in martial arts. Gardening is a beautiful balance of life that you are in control of. So you're kind of like, in a way, playing God, because you get to choose what you're putting into your garden. You get to choose how to nurture it. You get to choose which ones you're ripping out to eat. You get to choose what's a weed, what's not, right? Like, you're choosing these things. And it is a perfect balance of learning these different lessons in life, because it's human versus nature. But you're nurturing something all the way to the end of its life cycle. So I think these are the two things. Whether you want to garden for food or you garden for the enjoyment of flowers, or, you know, whatever it is, I think everyone should grow their own food, definitely. Again, it's all part of that human experience that I think a lot of people nowadays are either A, kind of missing, or B, they're kind of starting to think about it. I think a lot of people my generation are starting to think about returning to some of those old ways. Not trying to live like it's, you know, the 1400s or something, but reintroducing themselves into that cycle of nature. I think there's a lot of people in my generation that is thinking that way and dreaming of doing that, and kind of getting their lives together if they're not doing it already, but thinking about how can we make this happen. And I think that's a really, really amazing movement that people are going to. You know, you're seeing a lot more off-grid living and homestead living with people, you know, in and around my age group. And I think that's amazing. It's wonderful, wonderful to see people, you know, rebuilding those connections with nature, and that what I think is a full, rounded, balanced connection of the human experience. Time starts to mean different. But I'll talk about that in another upcoming vlogs. I don't want this one to run too long. Let me know if you guys are enjoying these kinds of like little rants and stuff. And let me know what you guys think of the channel and what you think of these videos. These little vlogs and daily routines, and just kind of sharing these moments of my life, my everyday living and stuff with you guys. If you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you like most about the videos. I'll try to make them so that way you're getting the most amount of value that you can get out of them. So I'm gonna run back to the house, spend some time with the family. I'll see you guys back here next time for the next episode. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you would like to have me talk about, you'd like to hear my opinions on or my philosophies on, leave those in the comments down below as well. I'll go ahead and share my thoughts. excited about?
We got figs.
What?
We got new figs coming out.
What are you talking about? Oh my gosh, we got figs? Gosh. Alright, I did not think we were gonna get figs yet. I thought it was a little bit too early, but we've got all kinds of figs growing on our fig tree here. We should check the other one and see if there's any figs coming on the other one too.